Welcome to Ricky's Miracle World. Today's story begins with a mystery from 70 years ago. In 1952, a woman named Mrs. C from Georgia, USA, was describing her problems to a psychologist. She mentioned that she had been experiencing unexplained memory losses since her student days. Sometimes she would forget what she was doing, and at other times she couldn't remember the classes she had attended the day before. She even recalled instances of being punished by her teachers, but had no recollection of their criticism. Mrs. C, nicknamed Eve, appeared to be a timid and reserved woman in the eyes of two psychologists. Eve went on to explain that her memory lapses had been worsening in recent days. Each time she woke up, she found herself wearing expensive and sensual clothing that she couldn't afford. Tears welled up in her eyes as she described this. However, she suddenly lowered her head in contemplation. When she raised her head again, her expression was filled with confusion. She then requested a cigarette in a very flirtatious manner. It was as if she had transformed into a different person with a lively and cheerful personality. The two psychologists referred to this phenomenon as Eve White and Eve Black, considering them two personalities inhabiting the same body. As the therapy continued, the doctors discovered another personality known as Jane. Jane appeared to be a combination of Eve Black and Eve White, displaying elegance, a gentle manner of speaking, and excellent social skills. Further into the treatment, the doctors found that Eve White had no knowledge of Eve Black's existence. However, Eve Black was aware of Eve White, and Jane possessed the memories of both Eve Black and Eve White. Yet Eve Black and Eve White were unaware of Jane's presence. In 1957, the two psychologists wrote a book and made a film based on the story titled The Three Faces of Eve. However, beyond the book and movie, Eve Black and Eve White presented another mysterious phenomenon. It was discovered that Eve Black was allergic to nylon, while Eve White did not have this issue. Could multiple personalities control allergic reactions? When investigative journalists questioned the doctors, they could only shake their heads in bewilderment. In October 1977, the Ohio police arrested a 22-year-old male suspect named Billy Milligan, making him one of the most famous cases of multiple personalities ever. The 24 Faces of Billy Milligan. Before the arrest, the police expected Billy to be a very dangerous criminal. However, when they broke into his place, they found Billy looking utterly bewildered, making it seem like they had apprehended the wrong person. Subsequently, the police searched Billy's room and discovered signs of multiple inhabitants. His bedroom displayed unfinished paintings resembling high-quality art. Additionally, various fitness and combat equipment was scattered about, alongside a multitude of books on chemistry, biology, and medicine. Half of the kitchen was impeccably clean, adorned with flowers, while the other half was dirty and messy. The police repeatedly confirmed that only Billy lived in this room. Moreover, they found evidence of Billy's involvement in the crimes, the victim's credit card, confirming that they had indeed arrested the right person. As the police officers prepared to escort Billy from the police car, they were astonished to discover that the handcuffs that had been securely fastened to his wrists were now inexplicably undone. Billy, wearing an innocent expression, sat quietly in the back seat. What kind of creature was this? Several weeks later, doctors assisting in the investigation seemed to uncover the truth. It wasn't that multiple people lived in the room, it was that multiple people lived in Billy's body. The doctors labeled this phenomenon multiple personality disorder. In one conversation, a personality within Billy emphasized, "Don't always call me a personality. We are people, and you always refer to me as a personality, as if you don't believe I'm a person." This personality, named Alan, was 18 years old, highly communicative, full of life, and exceptionally talented in the arts. Those artistic works resembling high-quality paintings were Alan's creations. Alan was the only right-handed personality among all the others who wrote with their left hands, and he was the only one who smoked. In the course of further treatment, the doctors gradually uncovered 10 personalities within Billy. The first personality was the dominant one, named Arthur, 24 years old, British, and he wore glasses. He spoke with a distinct London accent that Billy could not imitate. Arthur was highly rational, a gentleman, intelligent and composed. He possessed extensive knowledge in natural sciences such as physics, chemistry, medicine, and could fluently write in Arabic. The doctors, although astonished, initially assumed this was due to Billy's extraordinary learning abilities. However, the second personality soon emerged. The doctors became unsettled when they met Ragan. Speaking with a strong Yugoslavian accent, Ragan declared himself to be Yugoslavian, proficient in Serbian and Croatian. Even the doctor treating Billy admitted that he would need to learn some Yugoslavian slang each time he had a session with Billy, as Ragan's language logic was challenging to keep up with. Ragan was a master of karate, skilled in weaponry and military tactics, and his role was to protect the family in dangerous situations. As the doctors tested Billy's hormone levels, they noticed a significant rise in adrenaline levels when Ragan emerged. Adrenaline makes people braver and more powerful, which is why individuals who are more aggressive tend to have much higher adrenaline levels, an innate response that cannot be faked. Therefore, it was evident that Ragan was fundamentally different from Arthur. These personalities remained at the same age within Billy, and this observation led the doctors to test the aging process and hormone levels. Normally, as the body ages, people experience a decline in hormone levels. However, when Billy, at 27 years old, switched to Ragan, his adrenaline levels returned to those of a 24-year-old. This was akin to a physical reversal of aging. Furthermore, the doctors monitored brainwave patterns and discovered that when Billy's 3-year-old personality emerged, the brainwave patterns reverted to those of a young child. Billy's body housed not only male personalities but also female ones. Adalana, a 19-year-old girl, stood out with her black hair, shifting brown eyes that were often described as dancing eyes. This dancing eye condition could be observed on Billy's physical body. However, the straight black hair and brown eyes could not be physically present. These appearances were described by other personalities. According to the personalities, they each had a spotlight in Billy's mind, and Arthur controlled the power to decide who could step into the spotlight. When someone stood in the spotlight, they gained control of Billy's body. Initially, the personalities were unaware of each other's existence, but due to Arthur's frequent memory lapses, he began to suspect the existence of multiple personalities. Eventually, Arthur was the first to reveal the truth about Billy's family and became the family's patriarch. When these personalities came together, they could argue and communicate rapidly through thoughts. To outsiders, Billy appeared deep in thought, with his head lowered, as if contemplating something. But when he raised his head, he had transformed into the personality in the spotlight. Later, the doctors observed the states during Billy's switches and noted that there was a moment of rapid eye movement, much like the phenomenon that occurs when humans dream. Back to Adalana's story, she was charismatic and skilled at household chores, writing poetry and cooking, making her the family's domestic manager. During conversations with Adalana, the doctors discovered that she had orchestrated 3 robberies targeting women just before Billy's arrest. She took advantage of Ragan's absent-mindedness to switch places with him, committing crimes after gaining the trust of the victims. When Ragan returned, Adalana had already hidden, leaving Ragan to discover the money she had acquired and assume he had obtained it through force. As a consequence, Adalana was designated as an unwelcome personality by Arthur and was prohibited from taking the spotlight. The third major personality was Alan, the one who emphasized his humanity rather than being a personality. The fourth was Tommy, 16 years old, with messy brown hair and amber eyes, a skilled saxophonist, a landscape artist, and an escape artist. Tommy was the one responsible for removing the handcuffs that had been previously secured on Billy. During one therapy session, the doctors used restraints on Billy. When they returned later, they found that Billy had neatly folded the restraints and was using them as a pillow. This was Tommy's doing. When Tommy emerged, Billy's ligaments became unusually flexible. Tommy even described to the doctors how he could dislocate his joints and demonstrated various escape techniques. It was as though Billy's body had been trained from a young age. However, when Tommy was not in control, Billy's ligaments behaved no differently from those of an average person. There were several other major personalities as well. Danny, 14 years old, was timid and frightened of strangers, especially strange men. Consequently, he only drew inanimate objects. David, 8 years old, was the bearer of pain. When intense suffering occurred, David emerged to absorb all the pain. However, when the danger subsided, David left, and the other personalities had no recollection of the event. David possessed a high degree of sensitivity and understanding, being exceptionally intelligent, yet a very pitiable young boy. Among the 10 major personalities, there was also a 3-year-old girl named Christine, with golden hair, blue eyes, and an authentic British accent. She was the first personality to be created, suffering from dyslexia, capable of hearing and writing, but unable to read. Christine was Reagan's mother figure, and Reagan initially appeared to assist her. Christine was controlling Billy's body on the way to school when she noticed an apple tree and desired to pick apples for her teacher, hoping to avoid punishment. However, the apple tree was too high for her to reach, and she began to cry. Suddenly, someone asked her why she was crying, and it was Reagan who appeared. Reagan helped Christine pick many apples and even delivered them to her teacher. From then on, a strong bond formed between Christine and Reagan. Reagan claimed that although he was violent and filled with hatred, he would never harm women or children. His duty was to protect the family, especially the children. Consequently, Reagan took control of Billy's body when Billy was incarcerated, safeguarding the family in dangerous situations. Reagan also expressed a desire to change the situation of the working class and hoped to visit Cuba one day. The doctors also discovered that Reagan was entirely colorblind, only seeing in black and white. This corresponded to his intense and hateful psychological state. In contrast, Christine often stood alone in a corner and was referred to as the child in the corner. She was intelligent, loved to draw flowers and butterflies, and was instrumental in completing the therapy. The relationship between these personalities was extraordinary, resembling 24 people confined in the same room. Christine also has a brother named Christopher, who is 13 years old and has a genuine British accent. He enjoys playing the harmonica. The last significant personality is Billy himself. In fact, he is a personality that has been dormant within the collective for years. That's because, at the age of 16, he was about to jump off a building to end his life. However, in the very moment he was about to leap, Reagan emerged, pushed Billy aside, took control of the body, and saved everyone. Subsequently, Arthur considered Billy too dangerous, so he decided to let him sleep. He remained asleep for 7 years, until long after Billy's arrest, Arthur agreed to the doctor's request to wake him up. Upon awakening, Billy was terrified and asked the doctors if he was dead or alive. When Billy learned that it was 7 years later and he had transformed from a high school student into his current state, he couldn't cope and contemplated running into a wall to end it all. So Arthur put Billy back to sleep. Arthur and Billy are partners. Arthur first emerged during a math test when Billy couldn't solve it himself. Arthur completed the exam for Billy so quickly and perfectly that the teacher suspected Billy of cheating because the handwriting on the paper had changed. However, the teacher couldn't figure out how Billy managed to get someone to take the test for him. The doctors found this incident highly suspicious because it was Arthur's first appearance. Until that point, Arthur's personality or presence didn't exist. This raised the question of how Arthur could have acquired that knowledge without the other personalities or Billy's knowledge. The doctors initially assumed that Arthur secretly learned these things while Billy and the other personalities were unaware, but this test happened to be the first time Arthur appeared. Before that, Arthur's personality simply didn't exist. This suggests that while Billy appeared inattentive during class, his brain was actively learning, but this knowledge wasn't shared with Billy's personality. If this is the case, could our normal brains have a similar mechanism? With age, our brains store vast amounts of knowledge and skills, but they don't make these available to us. This hypothesis is rather unsettling. Continuing with Arthur's story, it appears there's a connection to his learning mechanism. When Billy was 16, he worked in a nursing home on the night shift, with Arthur in control of his body. Arthur enjoyed the medical aspect of the job and often cared for the terminally ill and engaged them in conversations. One night, he spoke with an elderly man named Tova who couldn't sleep. Arthur spent the night listening to Tova's life story, experiences, encounters with different people, emotions, knowledge, and so on. Arthur listened attentively. As dawn approached, Tova asked Arthur to fetch him some hot water. When Arthur returned, Tova had passed away. Arthur covered him with a blanket, discreetly informed a nurse, and left the scene, allowing the sociable Alan to take control of the body. Perhaps Arthur's way of learning was to listen to people's experiences and connect them with his existing knowledge. No one can really explain the mysteries of the brain and consciousness when it comes to Billy's story. During the subsequent treatment, doctors discovered another 13 unwelcome personalities, sealed away by Arthur, forbidden from taking the spotlight. They are Philip, 20 years old, rough, a con artist with a Brooklyn accent, involved in previous crimes and exposing Billy's multiple personalities to the outside world. This led to Arthur considering him unwanted. Kevin, 20 years old, blonde-haired with blue eyes, a master planner skilled in writing, who later emerged during Billy's most painful moments and was removed from the unwanted list. Walter, 22 years old, an Australian with a thick beard, a hunting expert, and an exceptional sense of direction. April, 19 years old, with a Boston accent, a tomboy who can sew and occasionally assists with household chores. Samuel, 18 years old, a wandering Jew, deeply religious and capable of reciting Jewish classics. He is the only personality with faith in God and excels at carving. Mark, 16 years old, a workaholic often referred to as the zombie. Whenever Billy had to repeat monotonous mechanical work, Mark would step in, doing the job tirelessly without complaints. Steve, 21 years old, a frequent deceiver who enjoys imitating and mocking others. He's the only personality who refuses to accept the diagnosis of multiple personalities. Lee, 20 years old, a highly skilled comedian. Jason, 13 years old, capable of helping other personalities erase memories, allowing them to forget unpleasant experiences. Robert, 17 years old, a dreamer constantly fantasizing about travel and adventures, but lacking the necessary knowledge and insight. Sean, 4 years old, a congenitally deaf-mute, slow to react and easily distracted. Sean first appeared when Billy was 4 years old, after he broke a vase. He knew his mother would scold him, and in response, the deaf-mute Sean emerged. When Billy returned, he was sitting alone in the room, and everything was already in the past. Martin, 19 years old, a pretentious New Yorker, materialistic, always dreaming of getting something for nothing. Timothy, 15 years old, once collaborated with Alan to help Billy work in a flower shop, which was Billy's happiest time. Timothy was emotionally rich, and Alan was eloquent, making the real-life Billy very popular. However, due to Timothy's injury, he retreated into his own world, and real-life Billy bid farewell to those wonderful times. The final personality emerged during the treatment and is a completely new one, called teacher. The teacher claims to be a fusion of the other 23 personalities, clever and humorous, representing Billy's impending recovery. The doctor's method of treating multiple personalities is to gradually merge them into a new personality to prevent further fragmentation. The teacher is, in fact, the true Billy. When the doctors asked the teacher if he possessed the memories of all the personalities, he replied, "Yes, all of them." The teacher could even accurately recount details from a month ago, such as when Billy choked and was taken to the hospital. He also shared memories from when he was 3 years old regarding his biological father. As the teacher began to recount these stories, all 22 other personalities sat quietly, adding further details in real time. In the real world, the teacher was being interviewed by a writer with a background in psychology named Danny Case. It was Danny Case who documented and created the story, known as The 24 Faces of Billy Milligan. Arthur is knowledgeable, Reagan is fierce, Tommy is an escape artist, Christine can exhibit a 3-year-old's brainwaves. Additionally, the earlier mentioned Eve Black and Eve White experiences both allergic and non-allergic reactions to nylon. All of these aspects in the case of multiple personalities seem to suggest that the body is like a highly adaptable machine, and personalities are the drivers of this machine. When the driver changes, the machine automatically adjusts to suit the new driver. How this adaptation works is still a mystery. In 1996, psychologist Michael H. Birnbaum made a surprising discovery from Billy's story. It was about the issue of Arthur wearing glasses. Initially, the doctors believed that Arthur wearing glasses was just a description, similar to his blonde hair and blue eyes. However, did Arthur really have nearsightedness? After conducting research, Professor Michael found that during personality switches in multiple personality disorder, the thickness of the eye's lens, essentially the degree of myopia, could actually change. This essentially means that when a personality with myopia takes control, that personality believes it is nearsighted. As a result, the ciliary muscle assists in fulfilling this myopic desire by compressing the lens, making it thicker and causing the body to become nearsighted. The ability of the body's mechanism to adapt appears limited to transforming good into bad, but it cannot reattach broken bones or make someone taller. This revelation adds another layer of rationality to the enigmatic case of multiple personalities. Furthermore, before Professor Michael H. Birnbaum in 1985, the Luke Medical Center in Chicago reported a case involving a female patient who was admitted due to diabetes. However, when she switched to a personality without diabetes, her body became normal, showing no diabetes symptoms. Her pancreatic cells also resumed insulin production. This indicated that the patient's pancreatic cells weren't damaged. The personality with diabetes simply believed they were, and as a result, stopped insulin production. Perhaps these are just the tip of the iceberg that multiple personalities reveal to us. The body is like an intelligent machine, capable of not only adapting to its driver, but also autonomously generating an extensive database, which is the core personality. It enables Arthur to have a London accent, Ragan to speak Serbian, and each personality to possess unique traits and talents. Maybe we aren't the masters, we, like the body, are merely workers. The true master, the database, just lets us think we are in control.